All right, so Fired Up Fridays is now Fired Up Freedom. I just want to do a little bit of a recap of season one. It was amazing. I had so much fun, a lot of amazing guests, a lot of great conversation. It was really, really awesome. If you're someone who wants to have a growth mindset, if you're someone who wants to take action and go towards your goals, then Fired Up Freedom is great for you. It doesn't matter if your goal is financial or personal. And now that we're moving into season two, we're going to be talking a lot of different things surrounding freedom.
My previous experience with Mighty Wallet, where I had this wallet that it was, well, I'll show you, having something to hold on to for that day to say, changes are what like make life interesting and overcoming them. Oh, you always got to be different.
Well, hello there, family. You're listening to Fired Up Freedom with Steve Ryan. Fired Up Freedom. All right. Do you ever look for certain services or products and it's just hard to find and you want to know if someone else has used that before? Well, visit my resources page, steveryan.com/resources, steveryan.com/resources. Fired Up Friday is now Fired Up Freedom. All right. Welcome to Fired Up Friday. All right.
Woo! Pumped,
Terrence.
Thank you, Steve.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That covers everybody in the world, all time zones. So if somebody was like, "Who's Terrence?" How would you introduce yourself? I see the mighty hat.
Oh yeah, the Be Mighty, man. That's my little slogan. I've been, I was looking at an artist who became an entrepreneur in the most unexpected way ever. And literally like rifling through some garbage, and I found magnets that I would like. It was in a prototype for a product. I was working at the Museum of Modern Art, and they had this puzzle piece that connected magnetically, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep those magnets. So I put them out on my desk. They eventually all snapped together, and I thought, well, what if I made a bracelet out of magnets, where you could like literally take it apart anywhere, put it together anywhere. It would always connect. You could resize it if it was too big and just take off the extra pieces, or do you just like play around and have tricks with it, like go through your hand, if you can see that, but like, yeah. So like from $300 in a box of magnets, I was like, started this product. It became very successful. Eventually, I made a video like that to put on YouTube just to better demonstrate the product. What I didn't expect is within a month of putting the product on YouTube, it went viral, and it was the #1 video for 10 days on YouTube in Christmas of 2006. And I went from like maybe making like less than $30,000 a year to selling $150,000 in bracelets in 1 month.
Wow.
And I just quit my day job. I went full on into the invention title of one of my many hats that I'm wearing. And I just kept inventing and discovering new things, and I never looked back, man. And so it's Be Mighty is an expression that I use to sort of remind myself of my own path, and also it's for others to say, hey, look, you don't know what'll happen if you just go off and take that first step. You don't have to know the whole staircase. You just have to take that first step and trust that, things are going to put themselves in place. And you really have to believe that. That's really part of the journey.
Wow. And so I'm taking a look at your Be Mighty website here. It's kind of cool. The Be Mighty Project, inspirational street art from New York City. All right. Then you have A Mighty Flame Flow at the Tiny Spark, Dante, Be Mighty.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I see you have some merch here. That's cool. And
Yeah.
you also have some flyers. Oh, that's
The fly
cool.
yeah, the flyers are all free. At each
I
one of the
see.
flyers, if you click on one of them, you'll see that each one has like 10 different inspirational phrases and quotes and things. And I sort of started doing this at one point. So I just gave you like the exciting, rocket launch part of the story, like excelling into greatness. Well, eventually the company went on to become one of Inc.'s fastest growing companies. I was, for 3 years, we were growing over 100% every year. My main product now, Mighty Wallet, was really what put me on the map. And but at the end of that trajectory was this incredible downward spiral. It was like a series of events that happened, that I just almost couldn't believe like what was going on. Like we came back from a what was supposed to be like a beautiful trip to the south of France with my French wife and visiting her family. And upon returning, she's emails me and says, "Hey, I'm moving out," and like leaves me alone with two kids. Uh,
Wow.
my factory owner in China disappeared with all the money, all my inventory. My dad got throat cancer. My mom had a staph infection in her hip replacement. My grandmother, who raised me, died. All of this happened within 3 months, and I just
Wow.
felt like the world was unraveling. Like I just literally, I was so scared. Every morning I would wake up and sit at the edge of my bed just thinking like, "Oh my god, like what's going to happen next?" And I felt like I could very easily slip into a depression. I could very easily go to that place, that was like pity and feeling doubtful. And I mean, who would blame you, right? In those circumstances, to
Yeah.
feel like overwhelmed. But I knew I had to hold on to something just to be functional every day. So
Yeah.
the project with the quotes began from like literally like me having something to hold on to for that day, to say changes are what like make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life beautiful. There's one right there, right at the perfect time. And
Wow.
and that's kind of how the project grew. It was for me at first. It was for me to survive this like really challenging period of my life. But then I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm enjoying these quotes so much. Maybe if I put them out in the world, other people will enjoy them. And I did that for 5 years, posting these flyers, all over New York City, wherever my travels would take me. And it was really beautiful to see people connecting with the flyers, people finding their own meaning. We're all on our own path, but we all can relate because we're all facing the same challenges, but in different ways. So it was a great
Right.
project. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done. So
Wow. Wow. And how did you get through those moments? A lot of people going through that would have just altered. Like so what was your did you have do you have any process of how you did it?
yeah, I think okay, so I've always been kind of a survivor, of sorts. Like I've had that instinct. There's an instinct to, the flight reflex. Um,
Yeah.
but I still think that we all are capable of meeting the challenges that life gives us, because those challenges are not there necessarily to punish us. So in
Right.
some ways, in our minds, we have to get over the idea that, oh, this it's all happening to me and this is so, overwhelming. Like you have to sort of, I know it's really hard, but you have to sort of accept these things and try to believe that there's something at play, something at work, even though it makes no sense, that's
Yeah.
going to bring you to that place that you need to be, either personally in your life or in your own personal development. Um, and so changing your attitude about like, this is happening to me versus this is happening for me. I just can't
Right.
see it. That's a major part of it. The other other thing I would really encourage other people to think about is that when we're going through these storms in our life, the storm is really passing through. We are the sky, or if you imagine like your mind is the sky for a minute, right? The
Right.
storm comes through, the storm moves on. And the storm, we have those periods in our life where we go through those storms, but
Hmm.
we are constant. We are the sky. We are the permanence. We are just witnessing this thing that's happening to us. And if we can believe those two things, let ourselves, accept that this isn't, the end of our life. This is just something bad we're going through, and that
Right.
it's not forever. And even though it may feel like it, and I can tell you, I was in a period of time for many years where I didn't know how I was going to get to the next day, the next week, the next month. It all just seemed overwhelming, right? But you have to come back to the present.
Right.
We always stumble and trip ourselves up when we get our minds way too far ahead of ourselves, and we start thinking, "Oh, but I couldn't. But it's not. There's no way that you know and that little thing we're doing in our minds is we're really messing ourselves up. If we
Hmm.
can just let go and be here right now, like no matter what your circumstance. And even when I was in those trying times, I would look out the window, I'd be like, oh, it's raining. Normally you would say, oh great, it's raining, but I'd be like, wow, it's raining, it's so beautiful. That's incredible. If you really think about it, it's incredible, right? The
Right.
idea that there's this vapor in the that gathers and then condenses and drops, and how amazing it is that it fertilizes the earth. And so, like, in coming back in a way, like to sort of put a end cap on the analogy of the storm, the storms, when they come through, the storms aren't, we run from the storm because we're like, oh shit, like, excuse me, I hope I can say that.
It's
But
all right.
okay, the storm is coming and it scares us because it's lightning, it's thunder, it's cold, it's windy, it's the rain is hitting us, and our natural reaction is to protect ourselves. But we also have to remind ourselves the storm has also come there to clean the slate. To sort of, sometimes we need those things to rip up our outdated ways of thinking, our outdated ways of being. The
Hmm.
storm has come to to tabla ras, baby. It's going to clear that stuff out, whether you like it or not. And so the storm isn't always there. When the storm leaves, you're left with a sunny day that soil is fertilized, and you have a chance to grow again. And so those are the things that sort of got me through those times.
Wow. That's a very, very interesting thing. So really it sounds like you're saying it's all about perspective. It's all about how someone view
Yeah,
it.
that's it,
And
man.
and so from that period of time to like now, like how are you now? Like how have you bounced back from that now? You know, that
Hmm.
was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, almost. And like I share this sometimes, in different spaces with people. It's almost, I feel like now, I don't wish anything bad to happen, but like I feel like I've been through it. Like I don't,
Right.
like, I'm happy. I'm so much happier with who I am now than when
Right.
I was on the Inc.'s fastest growing companies list. I wasn't happy. It was like
Right.
happiness was, to me, was adding one more zero in terms of our, annual income. That's not happiness. Now I feel like no matter what happens to me, highs, lows, wherever any one of these projects go, I'm good. I've learned so much about myself that I feel like in some ways I couldn't have grown without those challenges. So I'm thankful for them, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll be right back after this short commercial break. Up Friday will be right back after these messages.
Come and tap into the worldwide audience of Fired Up Fridays. Do you have an inspiring story? Have you gone through any type of challenges but you found a way to make it through? We would love to hear your story on Fired Up Fridays. visit steveryan.com today.
All right, that gives a chance for a water break. So
Yeah.
the Be Mighty project. So what's the Be Mighty project? Like, I know you explained some of it, but like, is there, what is the project about?
Right. Well, for me at this point, I still once in a while put the flyers around the city, and um, but it's more about like I've tried to create an archive for other
Hmm.
people because I feel like you know I I'll tell you one thing is that another totally unexpected thing that happened in as as I was putting these flyers up around the city
Hmm.
was that one thing I never expected was that the act of giving, the act of saying, I know the world's falling apart around me. I know that, I don't know where this is all going to end up, but I'm going to trust and I still have something to give, I felt like everything was falling down and and everything was felt like kind of meaningless. But I knew that if I stayed focused, that I'd get through it somehow. And
Hmm.
so what was interesting is, I would tell my business friends like, "Oh yeah, I'm like $1 million in debt. The bank is trying to like close on me, and but I'm out there putting up these flyers, and they're like, 'Are you crazy?' I'm like, yeah, it sounds nuts, right? But like honestly, the fact that I was doing that and I was putting these up, it helped me tremendously because now I had something to do. I had something to give. And
Right.
that act of giving, it flipped the script on all the feelings of powerlessness, like where I was mentioning earlier, like everything was happening to me instead of for me.
Right.
Suddenly, I was like, I had something to give and it wasn't all negative. And that
Hmm.
little bit of hope, man, it changed everything. So, like, the Flyer project now, the Be Mighty project now exists online for other people. If you're going through a hardship, everybody gets them. We're not immune to those periods in our life. Uh,
Yeah.
and when you do, I wanted to have a kind of resource for other people to either, to pull from and gather, or, even for like a workspace, if you want to put, some cool flyers around and inspire your team, inspire your school, put them up in a local coffee shop. You can download them for free. Um, and I just thought like it it was almost like those quotes meant so much to me.
Yeah.
Fired Up Freedom will be right back after these messages. Do you ever have moments where you feel stress, anxiety, or it's hard to sleep? Then meditation may be the perfect thing to help you. Come and join our meditation channel where there's 24 hours a day on demand meditation music. Go to steveryan.com/meditation. That's steveryan.com/meditation. It's time to have freedom from the noise.
And I kind of when I used to have these kind of dreams of almost like a mountain climber. How mountain climbers are going up these very steep, obviously they're like ravines, right?
Yeah.
You're way high, you have like this much to hold on to, and that's kind of how I felt. But the quotes to me were almost like the anchor points. When a
Hmm.
climber goes up the mountain for the first time in a route that no one else has taken, they
Right.
leave their anchor points in the mountain for the next climber to connect to. And
Right.
to me, these quotes were from climbers who had proceeded on the mountain before I did. And I was simply connecting and holding on to these as I was scaling my own mountain. And that gave me a kind of sense of connection, and that
Hmm.
I'm going to get through this. Like, even though it's felt like, oh my God, that mountaintop is so high.
Right.
But you just stop focusing on there, keep focusing on here, and just get through that moment, and you'll make it.
Wow. And how do you know what quotes to pick? Like, are some of these your quotes, or there's quotes you've gathered over time, or?
Yeah, I became kind of like a quote junkie. you know, I started gathering from all kinds of sources, Instagram, like Googling things, or I'd find a specific person that I really liked, and then I would, like John Wooden, the basketball coach, has like so many phenomenal quotes, um, and there's just like a wealth of them. But I would literally follow my heart, and so like if one week I felt a certain way, like I
Hmm.
needed to get these messages, I would that's what would go on the flyer.
Right. That makes
Yeah.
sense. So, so as far as like the Be Mighty project, not the Be Mighty project, like,
Mhm.
um, what's your vision of where you would like to see it, go, or if there's any, vision of where you want it to go?
Yeah, I mean, I really would like to make at one point a story about it. I think like there's a we all have, like I said, those moments, and it's almost like I've learned so much through that experience that I feel like writing it down in a narrative format could be not only fun and kind of insane to sort of see again and to give witness to it, but it's also like we we can learn so much from each other's experiences, right? And so like I think like telling those stories in a way makes us all feel more connected. So I'd love to do like a Be Mighty story eventually. Um, and that's kind of how where I see it going. Yeah.
Wow, that's gonna be awesome. And then you also have Degen Dudes. You want to tell us a little bit about Degen Dudes and what's that about?
Yeah. So as I was coming out of the fire, let's say, I uh, I had been so afraid to start anything new because I was worried that you know whatever I was gonna whatever I made was essentially going to go to the bank, and
Right.
I would never get out of it. Well, eventually I avoided I avoided service for so long that eventually the bank was like, okay, fine. They're just like, let's. And I said, well, what if I gave you, like, and I basically paid off a tiny proportion of what I owed, and I was able to get out of that debt. And it was the first time that I was able to sort of dream again. And I
Yeah.
thought, my God, like I've been missing this. I've been missing the idea of like of creating something new. It had been so long. And when I was thinking about the NFT space, I wanted to create something that was in a way different because um, I kind of felt like there was a formula that was happening,
Hmm.
and I kept seeing it over and over. And then I called on my previous experience with Mighty Wallet, where I had this wallet that it was. Well, I can show you mine. It's basically a wallet made of Tyvek,
Oh
like
wow.
the FedEx envelope stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's origami, it's folded. And so they're super thin, but as you fill them, they adapt and they get bigger because they're origami. Well, at the height of the company, I had created something called Artist Collective. And it was a platform where artists could submit their own artwork to the website. It would render their art onto the wallet, and then we would
Mm.
we would print them out, and the artists would get commissions for each one of their sales. And it was such a cool platform because if a certain design was very popular, we would put it into full production, distribute it around the world. We were sold in about 50 countries around the world at that time. So for artists, it was like, wow, you really got your name out there. Your art was being held in people's hands every day. Like, it was kind of phenomenal. And I thought, how could I bring that kind of format to NFTs where, you create a template and then artists all contribute their own vision of that template. And then you create, that's the collection. So
Mm.
Degen Dude is kind of an uh, 3D, although it's 2D obviously, but he's a 3D character that's, spins and turns, and each artist contributes their own artwork. We basically wrap the Degen Dude with the artwork of individual artists, and we
Hmm.
create unique one-of-one NFTs. And the collection is going to be essentially whatever 1,000 artists end up creating. So yeah, those are some of the ones right now. Um, and the other cool part about those guys is they also have augmented reality.
Oh
So
wow.
like if you click on the eyeball one or something, like I can show you, like there's a augmented reality part where you can just turn him around, like with your mouse. So if you go to the bottom, and there'll be a little link to so that's the NFT part right there with the framework around it,
Wow.
and then just below that there's a link to the AR degen. Yeah. So what this will do is it'll load the augmented reality sculpture, and so what you can do is now you can actually move him around, look at him however you want, see him from any angle. And the other really cool thing, Steve, is if you have this on your phone, if you're looking at the site on your phone and
Hmm.
there's a little cube that appears in the bottom, you hit the cube and he'll appear in your space through your phone. You can actually see him uh, wherever you're at. Like you could position him like in your environment, in your living room
Oh
or wherever.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool. I'm definitely gonna have
Thanks,
to
man.
try
Yeah.
that. Wow. How long did it take you to get this put together? Like this was
It's been a
that's
year, man.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of work, but
Yeah.
I love doing stuff that's different. That I mean, not I mean more in the sense of like I love to learn,
Right.
and so like being challenged to learn new software and stuff is kind of overwhelming, but then also really rewarding.
Wow. That makes sense. So like are you how did you get your artistry started as an artist? Like or well, first of all,
Hmm.
are you an artist? I'm assuming you're an artist too,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah. There's
Did,
a couple of the degen dudes I made. Yeah,
oh, cool. So, like, how did you get your artistry started? Were you just kind of born with it, or did you just always draw on the walls, or where did your
yeah,
art start?
yeah.
Your
Well,
art beginnings.
as my grandmother would say, "Oh, you always got to be different." I was like, so I guess I had it in me early, but I think we all like express different talents. We have different passions, and so early on, I was always into drawing, and but it just sort of evolved into that. Then people start saying, "Oh, you're an artist," right? And so like you get classified, and I think we can all become all kinds of things. It's just like what we're encouraged to do, what we're inspired to do,
Hmm.
is really how we define ourselves. But I ended up pursuing art. I studied painting. I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art, and I just wanted to become a painter, like in the most traditional sense. Like I actually moved to the south of France to study in the footsteps of Van Gogh, and Matisse, and Cezanne. And I lived there for 3 years, literally going to Cezanne's studio and going to the places where Van Gogh painted, and setting up my canvas and feeling completely overwhelmed
Wow.
because the beauty there is just so it's really hard to put the beauty of Provence in a painting. It's just, I think that's where Van Gogh was also struggling. Like he had a vision that he couldn't get to put, it just wouldn't work in the painting, and that's why he had to create that those strokes in the way he did, and the famous Starry Night.
Wow. Wow. Would it be safe to say that that he's either one of your favorite artists or your favorite artist
He's
from
definitely
your
one of
studio?
them. Like when I was like still doing painting, and
Right,
then
right.
eventually I went into photography, and then when I moved to New York City, I started doing performance art. So I met a bunch of Japanese artists, and we were doing collaborative performance art, and it got really crazy. Uh,
Wow.
but a lot of fun, and every time expanding, and learning new things, and growing as an artist and as a person.
Wow. So for people who may not know what a performance artist is, like
Hmm.
what's performance art?
Yeah, so it's almost like there was this period of time in the 60s when a lot of artists that had grown sort of frustrated about painting, painting being this canvas stuck on a wall in a gallery, this one context of art. And Yoko Ono might have been like one of the earliest performance artists, who did this piece where she cut her clothing little by little, on a chair in a space. And the idea sort of grew from like, okay, what else could you do that you were the art? So it was kind of like an extension of theater, but it
Right.
was more visually based. So when I would do performances with this art collective in Brooklyn, I was often naked, but painted in a white or something, and then my friend would paint me using different paints, and then sometimes I would use like flashlights and move the lights around, creating like a silhouette in almost like butterfly silhouettes of shadows around me.
Wow.
And sometimes the performances were super simple. Like I did one performance that was it was simply me laying in a pool of water that was about
Hmm.
10 by 10 feet, and I was looked like I was floating, but there was something underneath me holding me up, and I was
Right.
half submerged in this pool of water, which I put black ink in so you couldn't see how deep it was. um, on my heart was a stethoscope, and in each corner of the pool were four speakers floating in these basic Tupperware tins. Very dangerous. But
Wow.
the speakers would amplify my heartbeat, creating these four waves of heartbeat ripples coming off the corners in against the body and then rippling off. And on the ceiling, I had one light shining straight down. So it would reflect into the water, which was black, and then reflect onto the ceiling, the silhouette of the body with all these rays of light coming in and off and in and off. And it was just for an hour I sat in the water with my heartbeat being the only sound in the space, just like contemplating your own existence in something as simple as your heartbeat.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty. Are you going to do any performance art again in the future, or is that?
um I might, but in some ways, like I feel like I've I don't know, like I would really have to be the right project. I've done performances with other artists,
Hmm.
um but in some ways, like I feel like you really have to be in tune,
Yeah, it
to
would be
be
really
that.
cool if
Yeah.
somebody caught a performance art and sold them as NFTs. Like, here's
Mm,
that NFT of that performance art, and then you get
mm.
it, and
Oh yeah.
it's that performance art, and then a
Yeah.
different one. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, and is Degen Deuce, is that still open for artists to apply?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, a lot of so I've basically been building the back end so that artists, once they submit their work, it's as streamlined as possible. So we can get, an artist who gets online, their work wrapped, created, accepted, and produced online within 2 weeks. So
Wow.
that's kind of where I'm at. And by all means, if there are artists who are watching and you want to participate, you can submit through the website, through dgendudes.io, and there's an artist apply page.
Hmm.
And it's real easy. Just sort of send me examples of your work, kind of what you have in mind, and we can start creating unique one-of-one NFTs and creating cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that back on the screen here
Yeah,
shortly, where they can. Oh yeah, it looks like a real simple form. You click on apply, and this is where it takes you.
yeah.
And it has the different languages on there too, so that's pretty cool.
I put it in Japanese as well, just because a lot of artists were Japanese who were applying, and I
Hmm.
thought it would make it a little easier.
Right. So, folks, you go to degendudes.io, which is DEGENDUDES.io.
Hmm.
And we have the beginning page on the screen. It's like one Degen Dude, 1,000 artists. Artists apply now. You just click on that and it'll take you to a form. Awesome. All right. This has been wonderful. Like, did you have any last
Yeah,
minute words of wisdom that you want to depart to the masses?
we're all like capable of so many great things, and we just have to believe and trust in ourselves. Obviously, Steve, you're doing incredible work all the time, bringing people together, encouraging people, motivating them. And I have to thank you for being such a light in the space. So
Oh,
thanks to
thank you.
you. Yeah,
Thanks. I appreciate that. Well, this has been awesome and looking forward to seeing Degen Deuce. I understand your project more now, and I'm sure some others will too. And you as a person, you've been through so much. And thank you so much for coming on. Really, really,
man,
really, really appreciate you.
me too. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah, me too. So this wraps it up for Fired Up Friday.
Woo!
Running from myself at times I can't describe the words I try. The fear